Hey guys, welcome back. Detour Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Jones, joined by four-time National Road Champion from Australia, John Trevorrow. And Iffy, we're back. We've started with a bang, Roubaix. We spoke to Matt Hayman, and now we've got the Freckle, the original first Aussie, the OG, to win Paris-Roubaix.
Yes, it's 19 years, as we were saying. It's just hard to believe. And it was very unexpected. His teammate, Fabian Cancellara, was red-hot favourite, defending champion. And, but just the way it worked out, a real hot day, as Stuart was telling us. And, it all just worked out. When he finally was at the break, punctured, come back to the bunch, Fabian said to him, "I'm not so good, Stuart, go for yourself." He didn't even bother to check, "You sure?" or whatever. He said, bang, he went straight back up the road again.
Well, we did a really good episode a couple of years ago with Fabian and Stewie about that whole 2007 Roubaix. So in the comments in this video, we're going to leave you a link, and we'll put a link in on the website as well, where you can check out that episode with Fabian and Stewie. Stewie obviously gives us insight on the ground, what all the talking points are, and he's got some big news about the weather. There could be some twists and turns for Paris-Roubaix, which will make it must-watch viewing. And also, before we get into the episode, again, a big shout-out, Iffy, to our Club Detour members.
Yes, I've got my Club Detour hoodie on today, Nike Club Detour hoodie. So, yeah, very much so. And interesting, as you just said, great news, because Stu was saying it out on the course, riding with the Moo punters, and it was 24 degrees, and now they're talking 12 to 14 degrees and raining.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it as a teaser.
I'll cut that out.
So that they choose. No, you're right, mate. But no, it's another great episode. And also, final reminder, watch party Sunday night, Bleak House Hotel, starting at 6 o'clock. Come along, grab a feed. We're going to have the broadcast on. It starts a bit earlier because they're doing the women's race after the men's. But yeah, you've got to RSVP though. So get on the detour.online/events and you can click through and RSVP for Sunday, because it's a pretty big venue, but we've sort of got to cap numbers as well. But we'd love to see the Detour fans come along, and it's going to be a cracking night. So make sure you jump on and also tell your mates, subscribe. You can get onto our newsletter and you won't miss any of the latest news from the Detour Hub. So get on and put your details in, tell your mates we're back, and appreciate all the support. A lot of good comments, Iffy, from the Hayman episode.
Fantastic, mate. Well done again.
And Johnny, we didn't put it in this episode, but his battery died just as the episode finished. So you're lucky, mate. And I've told people, if you can go 5 episodes in a row, we'll go back to doing live streaming. But until you get 5 in a row with no technical difficulties, it's off the table. So I don't know if today counts as 1. I'll give it to you. So you got 4 to go. Enjoy the show, guys.
You both played a big part in this sport.
Try and do whatever we want. We can always cut it.
Took a cab home in the Maglia Rosa.
Cycling stories made to man rolled in. It's a detour. Proudly unpredictable. Laughs, hot takes, and stories unrepeatable. If you want straight lines, you're on the wrong track. Once you're on the detour, there's no turning back.
Righto, Iffy, we're joined again by Aussie cycling royalty. We spoke to Matty Hayman the other day, who was the second Australian to win Paris-Roubaix, and of course Stuart O'Grady, the first, and that was 19 years ago. That actually does feel like it was a fair while ago. How do you feel, Stewie?
Yeah, it's crazy when you think back. We rode around some cobbles yesterday and visited the showers, and 20 years next year, and I've got a few family members talking about coming over, and I it's just surreal to think it was nearly 20 years ago. It's crazy.
The memory's still fresh though. Like when people bring it up, because I'm sure you've had a lot of people want to chew your ear off. Probably the most common question you get with Mumo is, "Well, so tell me, mate, what did it feel like to win it?"
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there's so much behind the scenes story of the build up. Fabian being the favourite, and I guess it was super hot, and being out there yesterday on the cobbles, I think we had just 24, 25 degrees here yesterday. It was actually really warm, and that brought back a lot of memories. The heat may not sound like much, but when you're standing out in a farmer's field in the north of France in the middle of spring, 25 degrees is pretty warm out there. And I guess the dust and the whole journey of Paris-Roubaix, the teams were riding past, the dust storms were coming, and we saw Pogacar ride past, and a bunch of teams actually. And then we carried on to the velodrome and into the showers, and it does it. You can't help but reminisce, and it brings back some fantastic memories, because it's, as I was telling the guys and girls yesterday, you don't sit at home and talk about this stuff. It's not something you sit around a kitchen table and discuss what it was like, racing Paris-Roubaix. It's like it's once a year it comes up, and it gets all brought to the surface again. And yeah, it's all great memories, that's for sure.
Johnny?
I was lucky enough to be in Adelaide the day you won, and I watched the replay with your mum and dad, which was pretty good stuff. I remember we spoke to you when you were in Disneyland.
That's right.
Because it's something you already had organised. So you and the family were in Disneyland. And I remember saying, well, we're in Fantasyland, just thinking about it. But it was just such a surreal time.
Well, even that, story in itself. I mean, the fact that Anne-Marie was with Seth at the velodrome, the only reason they were there was because we were going to Euro Disney the next day, because we'd been on the road for 6 or 7 weeks. Even that's a bit of a funny story. But yeah, look, again, you're walking along, and in the last kilometre, there's actually when the guys go off the main avenue and onto that little, it's the last sector, but it's not really a sector. It's more just a celebration sector almost. I didn't even realise that we had our names on a big stone in that pathway, which I think I found out about 2 years ago, because Magnus Backstead told me about it. You're kind of walking along a road in Roubaix, and there's your name just randomly in a street. It's pretty surreal, when you walk along and reading out all the names with the group. And it's certainly a lot of pride, a lot of painful memories. But I mean, your name's etched in the stones for history. It's a weird feeling.
They all say that if you win a race like Roubaix, you'll never have to buy a beer for the rest of your life in that region. Is that true, Stewie? Have you been able to milk that, or current financial crisis?
I shouted our group a bit yesterday, so I'm not sure how that's shit out. I'm pretty happy with that our guests have come along, and yesterday again, another random story. I mean, you hang out at big bike races, you run into big bike riders. Roger de Vamek happened to be in the museum at the same time, and I met Roger very, very briefly last year. I don't think he remembered, but next minute we're having a big photo in this Roubaix museum with Mr. Paris-Roubaix, and it's just these little moments that happen on these trips. And even I come home pinching myself and send a photo to Dad, like you're never going to believe who I bumped into, because I mean you're constantly bumping into these legends of the sport who have come back their annual pilgrimage to either Flanders or Roubaix, to they're hosting groups, or they're with a company or a bike company, whatever, some equipment provider, and it's like this big mass reunion. And you meet them in the most random places. Met Andrea Taffy standing up the top of the Paterberg, and somehow you recognise each other. That's the weird part as well. You're standing up there all covered in Gore-Tex jackets and jumpers, and it's like, hey, Andrea, how you going? And it adds a lot of fun.
So you're over there with Moo Moo Tours. How long have you been there? When did you arrive?
Well, there was a bit of had to change some flights to get here, but we all got here. I arrived last Thursday, and we stayed in a place in Oudenaarde, right in the heart of where the Tour of Flanders is. So just wandering around town for a day, jumping on the bike. Again, riding up and down the Quaremont and Paterberg, and just did the Grand Fondo with about 17,000 other people, which is an experience in itself. And just kind of ride around with the guests and show them different things each day. Like I said, we had a team meet and greet with Tudor, who are staying at our hotel, along with Bahrain and Astana. So, just wandering around the lobby, and there's teams everywhere, and they're in full preparation mode for Sunday's big race. So, you get a quick look at all the equipment, and the guys were lucky enough to get a tour of the Tudor team bus this morning, their new €600,000 Mercedes, which is pretty impressive. It's a great week. It's a nice week to be able to come and talk all things classics.
What are the new buses like, Stewie? Like, obviously the coffee machine's the first thing that you really want to dial in, single seats. But is there any other new whiz-bang tech that they've got on there? Because, the best tech we had, remember I could plug in my laptop and play movies that I could download off the net?
Yeah, well, mate, just having Wi-Fi back then was pretty amazing, wasn't it? I think the one thing I'd noticed was, besides the white and black leather seats, which of course, the bus was just dialed in. It was amazing. It was the space. They got rid of all the, back in our buses, there was a lot of cupboards, and, you kind of felt a bit boxed in, whereas these were literally, it was like being in a first class plane, where it was just, one seat and quite a bit of room. So the guys had a bit of space, because, they're spending a lot of time in them. But it's even the buses are impressive. You have 4 of them parked out in the street out here, and it takes up half the block. You certainly know the teams are in town, that's for sure. But I think the biggest takeaway is the equipment. Tudor have all got, one carbon chainring on the front, 56, one ring, 32 mil tyres. Like, it's almost cheating, isn't it? Geez, I think our little old 25 mil tyres used to fit in between every pave, and these, even yesterday riding the Cobbles with 32 mil tyres, it's almost getting a bit easy.
Well, the big talk obviously is today Pogacar had 3 races this year, and he's just blitzed them. But one thing you've got over him is you've got a cobblestone, mate. That's the last frontier for the Pog. How is it going to pan out, do you think, this weekend? And what are the tactics that you can adopt if you are a bit of an underdog and a bit of a opportunistic rider?
Great question, Dan. Look, last year being here watching Pog, I'm like, surely he can't win this race. Like, if there's one race he can't win, surely the Van Aerts and Van der Poels and Pedersens are going to muscle him out and, box on before you come into the sections and ruffle his feathers a bit. And, next minute he's attacking Van der Poel in the section, and probably only didn't, come in with Van der Poel because of that little accident. I think he learned a lot since then. He's been out training. He's been out doing a lot of recce. Last night, if you'd asked me who would win, I'd say Pogacar has, the confidence that he's riding at the moment to be able to ride Van der Poel and Van Aert and these guys off the wheel is pretty impressive. Mads Pedersen's just coming back after his, break. So I think he'll be right up there. But, as only Roubaix does, it's going to throw in a big potential weather curveball. The weather's supposed to change tomorrow just in the afternoon. So the Grand Fondo that we're all in is going to go from hot and dusty to potentially wet. And Sunday at the moment, the forecast is maximum 12 degrees with 45 k/h winds. So that really does open it up. All those kind of well-oiled plans and, we'll do this power here, all that can possibly go out the window with a bit of mud and especially the wind. If that wind is like it is and it's crosswind, it really does open it up, I guess, to it opens the race up to anything could happen. I'd love to see Pog win. I think he deserves it. I think, I think I'd love to see him win Paris-Roubaix so he can move on to other things, such as coming down to the Tour Down Under.
Nice.
But, look, we are watching we're watching greatness. And, you know, it's one of the things I keep reminding everyone here and anyone that asks, you know, we are watching one of the greatest of all time. So enjoy the moment, because in a few years' time, potentially you won't be around and we'll be, mate, remember those days when the world champion was winning at will, you know, what he did in Flanders, what he did in San Remo. I mean, you know, this is... The comparison's always going to be there with Eddie. I don't like to compare them. I think Pog's still got a long, long way to go, but he's certainly on the right trajectory.
I'll tell you, yeah, the Tour of Flanders, the Ronda, it was just something else. I was so impressed with Evenepoel. I did not think he would podium like that, but he was right there all the way, and I felt for him when he got so close. You know, about 5 seconds back for so long, but the Pog wasn't letting him back.
Yeah, I think. I mean, look at Remco. The ride from Remco was phenomenal, and the fact that at one point Tadej turned around and saw Remco, you know, kind of almost making the break, and he got out the seat and accelerated again just so Remco wouldn't make it back. I mean, that's just to be able to do that, you know, that deep into a classic with Van der Poel on your wheel. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It really is. You know, these races are so difficult, and he's just kind of doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And it's just so impressive to watch.
Looking into your crystal ball, Stewie, like we were talking to Heyman, he said, well, it doesn't take an Einstein to work out the advantages of being in the breakaway for Paris-Roubaix. And, you know, you've talked about the weather conditions and so forth. How do you think that race will pan out?
Look, it all depends on what happens with the weather. I think if it stays dry, you know, even if there's a bit of rain Saturday afternoon, it kind of puts a bit of a crust on the cobbles, but then you always get one or two little bits where, you know, because of the amount of vehicles ahead of the race, it'll kick up some mud, but that's not too bad. But I think the wind's going to be a really critical element. You know, you're going to have teams in there. I can see a pretty big breakaway going, a bit like back in 2007 when I went away, you know, a big group, 20, 30 riders, especially with that kind of wind. And then, of course, the teams behind are going to try and control it. But, you know, I keep thinking to myself, if I was a DS or a manager of one of these other teams other than UAE, what would I be doing? I'd be doing everything I can to disrupt the race as early as possible. They've got to do something different. I mean, they keep, you know, the problem is, though, that everyone's being told to get in the break. They're averaging 50K an hour for the first couple of hours. So they're already doing 100K in 2 hours. By the time the break actually goes, everyone's pretty knackered. So then they only kind of get it 2 or 3 minutes, and it's relatively easy to control. It's almost like they're going too fast. You know, we see that at the Tour de France at nearly every stage. You go, this is going to be a breakaway day. The problem is the break never goes till after 80, 100K. And then, you know, they get a couple of minutes and then Pog goes, oh, well, I might as well win the stage now. You know, it's almost like they need to slow it down and try and bring in a bit more strategy and tactics. And I don't know, they can't go any faster, can they? I mean, they averaged 48.5K an hour in one of the classics the other day. And you're just going, at what point are we going to hit 50K an hour in an average speed? And it's almost the faster they go, the easier it is for Pogacar, because the engine's so big that the smaller guys are just burnt out by the time they're getting 200K in, and the others are just hanging on for grim death. And, you know, like we saw the other day, then they're happy to get a podium. So I don't know. It's easy to sit here from my room and say, it's making for one hell of a spectacle, that's for sure. But whatever the case, you know, come Sunday night, we're going to have another great story to tell. You know, I think it's hard. It's hard to go past the big 3 or 4, really. You know, Pogacar.
I suppose you've got to whack Garner into that mix as well. You know.
Yeah, look, he's on great form, as he proved. I can't remember the race.
Towards the
he reeled in Van Aert, but that, you know, again, that's a very
50 metres to go.
I know. God, poor Walt Van Aert. I mean, even I'm hoping for a Walt Van Aert victory at some point. You he's certainly doing everything he can. But at the end of the day, mate, how good is this? How lucky are we to be able to watch this brilliant cycling?
But is that the biggest talking? I was just going to say, Stu, is that the biggest talking point on the ground? Being over there now, just you're watching greatness now with the results that we've seen this year.
Yeah. I mean, Pogacar's. I heard one of the comments on TV yesterday was that I think he started he's won his last 7 races, and 3 or 4 of them are monuments. Lombardy, San Remo, Flanders. I mean, come on, it's scary. It's phenomenal. This isn't something that we're going to see again for a long time that I can picture. The amount of wins. The guy has only raced four days this year.
3.
Strada Bianchi won as well.
Yeah. So Strada Bianchi, he's won three races this year. He's won them all.
Yeah,
pretty good strike rate.
Now they got. I just looked on the start list. There's 6 Aussies by the look of it. So we've got Caden Graves in with Alpecin with Matthew Van der Poel. Makes it pretty strong with him and Phillipson in there to give him a hand. Yep. And then young Alistair McKellar, young Queenslander who's riding with EF. Sam Welsford, who I reckon will he looked pretty good in the early stages of Flanders and stuff. So Sam will probably play an important role early. And then there's 3 of them in Jayco, Alula. We've got Durbo, who's become the Roubaix specialist, Kel O'Brien and young Hamish McKenzie, the youngster. So 6 Aussies.
Oh, look, I've said, I don't know how many years I've said this, but I wish all the stars aligned for Durbo. A lot of similarities with Matty Heyman, just someone who's given 100%, not only for his team but for his country. He's the ultimate teammate, cracking bloke. So, I'd love nothing more to see Durbo just be up there in the final, and who knows, as my story proves, anything's possible. Let's hope for a Durbo or someone. But, look, it's the guys have just got to try and get in the break and get ahead of the game. I mean, there's no point waiting till after the Arenberg and trying to attack. I think it's, you've got to be smart. You've got to follow the wheels for as long as you can. Keep your nose out of the wind. Hang on for grim death, and then hopefully a bit of luck plays out in your way and you can do something in the final. Follow the right move, and the big guys kind of hesitate and look at each other. As we all know, even Pog crashed last year. I can tell you, being out, I think we did 7 sectors yesterday, and they're still bumpy and rough and horrible, even with the big 32 mil tyres. It's just crazy. I mean, you saw some of the photos of the pros crashing yesterday in training. They're dangerous. So that's all part of the Roubaix mythical race, I guess.
And we can confirm after chatting with Matty the other day that Mauro Schmid is not riding. We used AI to do some research for us, and it turns out he's doing the Ardennes.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is a good chance to plug. Obviously, next year is going to be 20 years, but if you are looking at a bucket list and people are thinking, it looks great on TV, how different is it seeing Paris-Roubaix in person? And as they say on Radio Stewie, there's never been a better time to book if you are thinking, particularly for next year, given it's 20 years.
Yeah, no, look, there's nothing that compares to the sound of a peloton just hammering past on a cobbled section. The sound is just phenomenal. The cars, they hit it, the dust, the noise. I think just the pure speed, TV doesn't do speed justice. You can see that when you're watching a MotoGP race or Formula One or, anything that involves speed. It never looks that quick on TV until you're standing there. And the peloton just going past. It's just this, tsunami of noise and wind and dust and dirt. And I guess the bonus point is if you do ride a bike, you can get out there and do the same cobbles the day before and get that same experience. And I think that's where being able to get out on the bike and ride it, and then, you do the Grand Fonda or you choose not to, it doesn't really matter. But the fact that you've gone and ridden some cobbles, everyone just says, Jesus, it's just nothing like it. You can't describe what it's like to ride a set of cobbles. So
we have a lot of punters sitting there with a bag of frozen peas tomorrow, or on Sunday.
We've already got people. We just came back from a ride then, and people's hands are blistered and bleeding after doing a 37k ride yesterday, asking me what they should do, and I'm like, hey, I don't know.
Cup of concrete.
Yeah, the old office hands aren't coming too useful, but I'm not sure how much tape or Band-Aids you can do. So I think everyone just probably grips them a little bit too hard. So, we go through some tips on what to do and what not to do. But at the end of the day, they will finish. They've got a massive smile on their face. And, being able to be in the velodrome to watch the winner come in, we've got pretty primo position inside the track right on the finish line. And yeah, you just get to witness a bit of history. It's a good day.
Brilliant. We'll get on Moo Cycling website and book Roubaix for next year. If we don't want to keep Stewie too long, any final questions?
We're about to fire up with the boys at Tommy Walker's great Bleak House Hotel down Beach Road there. And so you could say a shout out to all the detour mob at the Bleak House.
Have a great day, guys. Cheers. I'm sure everyone's having a pretty good day, and we'll look forward to catching up when I'm back home.
Now, before we let Stewie go, we've done another AI tribute. Iffy, how do you describe this track that we've done for Stewie? We might have actually, because it's 19 years, we might have pushed the decade back. It sounds a bit too 80s.
Dan just says it's AI. AI, he works with them, but Dan comes up with the guts of it. AI wouldn't even know. So
I just give it a few prompts, mate.
I'm getting nervous now, mate.
You're very
all right. Well, this is we did one version, and I played it Iffy, and Iffy goes, "Nah, that's shit. Do it again." so this is version 2, but as I said, the prompts is a bit more 80s. So enjoy, Stewie. We'll put some photos over the top of them.
Can't wait.
With the freckle at the helm, you're rolling proud with O'Grady.
Like a kiddie house, mate. We smashed it, ripped it up. God, that was good.
Whoa! Boom!
Bang!
Oh, mate.
There you go, mate.
That sounded a bit Bon Jovi-ish, Richard.
Yeah. But that's
I'm
yours. That is yours. So
that's yours, mate.
We'll
WhatsApp that. You get the full IP, and I've already pictured. Like, we usually just put photos over top, but I've got this amazing footage of you with a mullet when we were at Molly's studio.
I felt like I needed a wig then, definitely.
Yeah, we'll finish it like we did.
Maybe even a VC or something. Yeah.
We'll finish it with that woo when you had the mullet. that was just vintage footage. Yeah. So before we let you go, Stewie, final predictions, mate. Give us your top 3 on Sunday.
Oh, jeez. Oh, look. I'd love to see the Pog win it. Mate, I'm going to go Pog, Van der Poel, Pedersen. It's pretty hard to look beyond those guys. You know, Hart would love to see a Durbo or, you know, Caden or any of the Aussie guys up there, to be honest. But I think she's going to be a battle of the ages. Go the Pog.
Good. That's it. Good one, mate. Well, we appreciate you
mate.
taking the time. And as we
Thanks,
said to
Stewie.
the punters, get on Moo Cycling. Book your trip next year. She's going to be a cracker. So enjoy, Stewie, and enjoy Sunday.
Thank you very much, guys. See you soon.